So 28, who can repeat after me? 28. Lasya?
Yes, Padmana.
Avyaktadini bhutani.
Avyaktani bhutani.
Mukundanana?
Undi Padmana.
28. Kriti Talli and everyone also can chant, but though you are on mute, you can always chant, right? Avyaktadini bhutani.
Avyaktadini bhutani.
Vyaktamadhyani bharata.
Vyaktamadhyani bharata.
Avyakta nidhananyeva.
Avyakta nidhananyeva.
Tatra ka parivedana.
Tatra ka parivedana.
Paridevana, sorry. So Vedana is also a word which resembles very similarly to Paridevana. So that's why it's being like that. But it is Paridevana. So I'll correct that. Avyaktadini bhutani.
Avyaktadini bhutani.
Vyaktamadhyani bharata.
Tamadhyani bharata.
Avyakta nidhananyeva.
Avyakta nidhananyeva.
Tatra ka paridevana.
Tatra ka paridevana.
So what we learned something about unmanifest, right? You remember that mango seed example where we said, hey, when we look at the seed, we don't really understand that there is a tree hidden inside that, right? We don't know whether there is a small tree inside that. When we plant that seed into the soil, we see that the tree comes out. Now, when the small sapling with 2 little leaves comes out, we can't see fruits in it. We can't see anything in it, just those 2 leaves in the stem. But slowly the same tree grows into a big mango plant, mango plant, from mango plant to mango tree. And then on the tree, there are like many such mangoes hanging around, right? Now, even so, where was that tree? We were not able to understand that there is a tree. There are so many mangoes that are going to come from this small, tiny sapling, right? And even when there is a tree there, do we see a forest? No. Only when those mangoes on the plant, on the tree, drop down into the soil and then give rise to another plant from there, slowly the number of trees increase in the neighborhood, and then it creates a small garden of mango trees, and from garden comes the forest. So all this started from where? The entire forest of mango trees started from there, one tiny seed. So we discussed last time that what cannot be perceived by our senses, what we cannot taste, what we cannot smell, what we cannot see, right? What we cannot touch, things that we cannot perceive, we call that does not exist at all. But isn't it the fact through this example, isn't it the fact that the entire forest was hidden inside that small seed? Because if that seed was not there, then the entire forest wouldn't have come. It's because of that one seed the entire forest has come, which means what? The entire forest was there in that tiny seed in a very unperceivable state. That means we call that as an unmanifested state. Bhagwan here is saying that avyakta adini, vyakta madhyani, and avyakta nidhana, which means what? Before even anything got created, it was there somewhere in some seed, isn't it? If there is humanity and human creation happening, right? The planets got created, human beings, animals, plants, all water bodies, mountains, everything came into creation. But whatever has been created must have been there in some seed somewhere. Going by the same logic, nature gives us these examples. We don't have to contemplate anything about it. It is nothing about soul or anything, right? Even in your regular world, if you see, things that do not exist come from a tiny, little surface where we cannot even expect that it will come from there, right? So Bhagwan says everything is in the seed, somewhere, hidden, not known to anyone. From there, it originates. And once it originates, does it stay for long? No. All of these will have to go back one day. That's what your Big Bang theory and others also, in those who are interested in science, would also go through the same logic of Big Bang theory. It all started from somewhere, and then it's going into something back again, a black hole. Same concept. Bhagwan is trying to say everything started in the unmanifested state. It was all hidden somewhere, not perceivable to our regular senses. Then life happens. Bodies come. They operate, they dance in this world, right? They create stories. And then what do? They become unperceivable. We cannot see them again. Bhagwan is not using the word. Of course, he said nidhana anyeva, which means after the death of the body, they are no more perceivable, but they will be existing. They will be in the unmanifested state. So what he's trying to say is you start with an unmanifested state in the beginning. In the middle, madhyani, you originate into a manifested creation. And towards the end of life, you again go back to unmanifested state. So which is more permanent? The unmanifested state is more permanent, or the manifested state is more permanent?
The unmanifested, because the manifested.
That is the resting stage. It is like our house. Wherever we go in the whole day, do our job, shop and do anything. At the end of the day, we come back to our house and stay in our own bed. Right? So that is your permanent place. If somebody has to find out where Pawan is going to be, they have higher chance of finding me at my house rather than anywhere else. Because even if I go somewhere else, it will be probably an hour, 2 hours, and I'll come back to my house again and I'll rest here. If something else comes up, somebody says, now bring groceries, I'll go back to the grocery store, bring, and then come back again to my house. My house is going to be my permanent abode, permanent address. Likewise, the permanent address for all the beings that have been created is, what is that permanent address? What do we think the permanent address should be? Somewhere they should rest. That resting place. Yeah, Akshita, raise your hand.
Is it the unmanifested state?
It is the unmanifested state, but even the unmanifested state requires a seed somewhere. It needs a seed where it can rest for as long as it wants. Unless somebody calls and says, wake up, time to go to grocery store. Until then, it has to be an unmanifested state. This, please note down the word. We call that as Hiranya Garbha. What do you call it as? Hiranya Garbha. The master egg, the biggest egg or the biggest seed that you can think of, where all these unmanifested souls are just resting so that they can come back into this world when the conditions are appropriate. I want to go only when there is like 20 degrees temperature outside. Only then I will go out. If it is too cold, I don't want to go. Right? So something like that. The unmanifested state also waits until the right conditions prevail so that it can start originating again and perform its duties that are pending. Right? So that's what here Bhagwan is very clearly explaining to Arjuna, that do not worry about what is going to happen in the war. Everybody, including you, everyone in this world will have to get back to unmanifested state towards the end. They are going to rest in something called as Hiranyagarbha, and that is none other than my place. It's me. It's part of me where I know I create them. I've created this shell, which is always part of me, and you all are going to be part of it. So when the body is dropped, the souls do get back to the unmanifested state, back to Lord Shri Krishna, in a place where, as per our spiritual text, it's called as Hiranyagarbha. Okay. Now, let's move on to the 29th. So why is he saying that? Because he wants to emphasize that what remains is a small thing. Going to grocery store is nothing in your day. What is more important is how you are spending your time at house. Because most of the time you are at house. It's only for that one small minute you go out and come back, which is actually this life. See how minuscule is this life in terms of the importance. So we better use it appropriately. Huh? All right. So now, is this surprising you? Is this surprising you how Bhagwan is explaining that this life is, we thought that this life is the only thing that we have. But Bhagwan is saying it is only like small part of your daily routine where you have just gone to the grocery store and come back. That's actually your life, this life. Everything else other than that is going back home, come back to me and rest in me. Beautiful thing, right? All right. So let's see what the next verse talks about. And here the meter again changes. Akshita, Anshika, can you follow, repeat after me? Ascharyavat pashyati.
Ascharyavat pashyati.
Kaschidenam.
Kaschidenam.
So we'll chant both of them together. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam.
Ascharyavat vadati.
Ascharyavat vadati.
Tathaiva chanyaha.
Tataiva chanyaha.
To these two lines. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam.
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha.
Ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha.
Ascharyavat chaiva. Sorry. Ascharyavat
Ascharyavatchaina.
Anyashrunoti.
Anyashroti.
Shrunoti, listening. Anyashrunoti.
Anyashroti.
Ascharyavatchainam anyashrunoti.
Ascharyavatchaina anyashroti.
Shrutvaapyenam.
Shrutvaapyenam.
Vedana chaiva kaschit.
Vedana chaiva kaschit.
Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit.
Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit.
So let me repeat the 4 lines. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti. Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. Would you like to try, one of you? All 4 lines. This is little tongue twister, but definitely it is more important to chant these kind of verses. Yeah, Anshika, you can.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam. Ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha. Ascharyavat chainam anyashrunoti. Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit.
Very beautiful, awesome, very good. So this says, see, Bhagwan is saying, Arjuna, when I am explaining all these things in life, You will see my existence everywhere, right? So when I explain to you all these things, you will feel a sense of wonderment. You know what is wonder? Have you seen anybody, when you say wonderful, what does that wonder mean?
It
Yeah,
means like
Varsha?
you're really like happy, and it's like wonderful means kind of like the wonder part's like that they're really excited and happy and like they feel really good about what's gonna happen.
Correct, correct. So wonder means something where we do not have control on the level of excitement that we go through. At that point in time, we don't have control on ourselves also. You are surprised, number one. There is a difference between surprise and wonder. Wonder struck is a feeling which you cannot explain, because at the time where you find it wonderful, you don't have focus on anything else. You're just focusing on that, mouth open, eyes out. This is what, if you have to create an animation of it, this is what you will do. Wide open mouth and eyes out. You see that in cartoon serials and all. So this is wonderment. Bhagwan says, when I'm explaining to you all this about like soul, right? Not just this. Whenever you are thinking about soul, whenever you are thinking about Paramatma, whenever you are thinking about God, always it gives a sense of wonderment. Why? We always see how this whole world is resting in Paramatma. How? This whole world. Today I'm speaking to you, cars are running on the roads, planets are revolving around the sun. Everything is resting happily inside Lord Shri Krishna's heart. How? When he takes back all the worlds inside, everything sleeps under him, under his shade. How? That thinking itself, the thought itself brings a lot of wonderment, to an extent that we lose focus on ourselves. I forget that I am Pawan sitting here, right? This happens. Have you seen musicians when they sing sometimes? How many of you like singing? How many of you like painting? Right? Did it ever happen when you are painting something that you lost and forgot that you are hungry? You forgot that you have to go somewhere and do something which you wanted to do, but you cannot because now you are completely focused into painting. Did it happen to you anytime? If you are able to lose yourself, if you are able to forget about yourself while doing something, that itself is wonderment. And this happens with most of the art forms. When you are singing, when you are acting, when you are painting, and when you are dancing, what happens is you lose yourself. You are so much inclined into that art form that you lose yourself. And this exactly happens when someone thinks about the Lord, someone thinking about God, the soul. These concepts are spiritually so inclined that there are many people who talk about it and get lost. Get lost where? Get lost in that thought itself. Ante elaga? Have you seen great saints talking? When they talk, they don't understand. They don't even have any, awareness of what's happening around. They just want to talk about Lord Shri Krishna. Have you seen people singing bhajans? Yeah. Have you seen people singing bhajans? When Shivaratri comes, you should see how people can stay awake for almost the entire night. What makes them stay for the entire night? Usually at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you will find sleepy. You go to sleep. But when Shivaratri comes, I think when some of the bhaktas, when they go to the Shiva temple and they spend the whole night there, it's a wonder for me. How can they really stay like that? What makes them stay like that? Sometimes when people, here it says Ascharyavat, which means people are in the feeling of wonder when they speak about this. About what? About the soul, about Paramatma, about Lord. When they speak about it, they get lost in wonder. And in some cases, Ascharyavat vadati, Ascharyavat pashyati, which means sometimes seeing. Have you ever seen, sometimes when we go to the temple, if the idol looking at the idol, you get lost. You don't think anything else. When you're looking at Lord Sri Krishna's picture or anything that you like, you just get lost. You don't get time for anything else. Right? That's wonderment. So some people lose themselves when they are seeing it. Some people lose it when they talk about Lord Sri Krishna. Some people get into that state of wonder when they hear about Lord Sri Krishna. There are few people who would just keep listening about the God. Why? They're so much carried away with that, and they are lost. They don't have any consciousness about what's happening, what they need. Are they hungry? Are they thirsty? They don't care. Having said that, in spite of all these things happening, there are still those who, in spite of knowing all this, will still not understand God. Shrutva api enam. After listening all this also, Bhagavan Shri Krishna knows every student. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, when I am explaining these, there are few who would like to speak about it. There are few who would like to listen about it. There are few who would like to see me. But there are also few who, in spite of knowing all this, what I'm saying, will still not understand what God is all about, what soul is all about, and what this creation is all about. They will not agree. They will not accept. It is fine. So Bhagwan here, I think I should also thank my Gurudev, who has given this commentary explaining this so clearly that we should not consider any of the people, any of those who are not believing or not understanding the grace of God. It is okay. Why? Because they also have the place in this mighty, Bhagavad Gita. They say that there are many who will not be able to understand. It's okay. Bhagavan never said leave them. Bhagavan included them also in the fourth line here. See, 4 lines. There is a line for everyone. That means he has no bias. He has no disparity between those who understand, those who are enjoying, those who are wonderstruck in his leelas, and those who do not want to understand or have not been able to understand. Did you think ever like why people are not able to understand something they must? What could be the reason? What could be the reason
Because they
why?
probably just don't know what that is, and they don't really get what you're saying that much because
Right.
they don't know much about it.
Right. In spiritual world, the word that we use for such a kind of symptom is called as avidya, or in English translation. Usually Sanskrit to English translations are not so good. But if you have to take a nearest word, the nearest word to that is ignorance. Right? When you are loaded with all the unnecessary things, what must go in will not go. Suppose if you're watching too much of videos that are not really required by you, something that a nice, good word that's coming into your ear, it will not reach your heart. You will just leave it from the other side. It happens. When you, for example, I've seen this a lot. When you are totally carried away with things that are not appropriate, which means all unnecessary, gossips and this and that, even the nicest words that are spoken will not be captured by your ear. Why? Because you're already in the middle of something very stupid and noisy. So even the nice words will not catch you. Similarly, when we are loaded with all the wrong information, then it is hard to come out of that situation and we will not be able to understand the glory of God. Right? So here, Bhagavan is saying, and slowly he will get into how this is all tying up to his glory, right? And this is all to make Arjuna believe that it is okay if you are not able to understand now, but please try to listen. And there are many who are able to listen like this and feel good about it. We'll stop here. The 30 and 31 are again not about anything higher. It is just very regular casual talk that Bhagwan Shri Krishna is doing with Arjuna. And we will go ahead, understand how he wants to tune his student and bring him back to the war field. Okay. All right. Any questions or anything that you have? No? Okay. All right. So let's do the closing prayers. Sarvesham swasthir-bhavatu, sarvesham shantir-bhavatu, sarvesham purnam bhavatu, sarvesham mangalam bhavatu, sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांतिः. हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. Hari Om. Thank you all. We'll catch up again next week at 7:30 a.m. Unless I talk to a few of the members who could not join because of various different classes that they have, I'll have a personal call with them and see if I can adjust somehow these classes. If not, then we'll have to go with some routine, right? Obviously, one or the other will become a hindrance. So the problem with Sunday is that I will not be able to, I have to go early, 7 o'clock itself, 7:30 itself, I have to leave. So I cannot bring, before 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it's not possible. So I have a hard stop on Sundays. So that's the reason why I moved on to Saturday. We'll figure out some time that helps for all. And if not, then we'll continue. So assume that 7:30 is going to be our time, unless we change. 7:30 US time, which is, I think, 5 p.m. Kriti, what is the time you started, Kanna? 5 o'clock, right? 5 o'clock India time. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone.